You know, I do take a lot of pride and
Welcome to
excitement
Costco.
in being able to dunk on Agile at any point in the day. I mean, you could wake me up at 3 in the morning and quickly ask for me to dunk on Agile, and I could. By the way, people are saying this is Dollar Store Prime. Okay, this is not Dollar Store Prime. He looks like a lovely, okay. All I know is I like his style. I think he has a lot of great things going for him, okay? So I don't like the fact that you are saying those things about him, okay? Prime from Amazon. Come on, that's Costco Prime, Kirkland Prime. Nah, this guy's Prime in itself. Hey, he is a co-author of the Agile Manifesto. Okay, and by the way, does anyone know what these are? Like, what is this? Is it to protect the side vision? Are these like little side panelings? I don't know what they are. Blinders? Blocks reflected sun? I never had those. Those are like they're actual side paneling. He got shot in the eye. Get out of here. All right. The Agile Manifesto co-author blast failure rate reports. Talks up remaining project. John Kern is looking for Agile exemplars, not Agile industrial complex. Okay, so to be completely fair when it comes to Agile itself says that individual teams should make up their own process and rules. And of course, saying that each individual team should make up its own process and rules then causes this entire organizational issue where each team could have its own process and rules, thus actually allowing for a lot of chaos and stuff to happen. And so people get kind of can get kind of wary or scared about that, and thus they will try to kind of push back against that and say, okay, we're not going to do Agile on a per team basis, but on a company basis, and thus make it such that we determine all process for all teams. So I can understand the Agile industrial complex and saying that Agile Manifesto versus how Agile is practiced today isn't quite in line. I cannot believe I forgot to turn off alerts. This is 2 videos in a row. I think I'm falling apart. I don't think I'm a good streamer. I probably say things dumb. In most companies, Agile is just a word. Agreed. Hold on just one second. Someone said something. But think about scrolling. Hold on. Hey, appreciate that, Norta. Thank you. But my problem with this is that if every time something is practiced, it turns into something bad, then maybe it's not something good at all. You know, like how there's like no true Scotsman, or communism has never been tried. Well, maybe Agile falls under the exact same thing, where it's just like every single time it's tried, it just devolves into something that's not good. Maybe it itself is not good. Maybe it's not that there's no true Agile Manifesto project. Maybe nobody can help but to accidentally make it bad, right? Our code. Anyways, the Agile Manifesto was published, before looking, February 2001, if I'm not mistaken. Did you know that? I think I'm right on that one. Agile Manifesto history. Let's see. February 2001 at the lodge at Snowbird Ski Resort. By the way, can we just all take a moment here and realize how badass that is, that they got to go plan something that absolutely destroyed and changed our industry forever, and they got to do it at a ski resort. Okay, why don't I get to go do an offsite with a bunch of thought leaders and create a manifesto at a ski resort? Now what do? I turn on Discord and have a video call? Rich laughter. That's basically Terminal Coffee. Okay, that is basically Terminal Coffee. Terminal Coffee is basically that. This is true, factual, and real. Let's rent a lodge and fuck up the economy. You're a wizard, Harry. Oh man, that's pretty good. John Kern, one of the authors of the Agile Manifesto, calls the Agile, and let's see, calls this the Agile. Oh, hold on. Let's do this. The Agile Manifesto was published almost a quarter century ago. Yet as the years have rolled by, its lofty ideals have run headlong into a brick wall of management desire for process and reporting. Crazy. Management wants process and reporting. John Kern, one of the authors of the Agile Manifesto, calls this the Agile Industrial Complex. Okay, so I have rightly identified this. I'm not surprised that this has happened. The proliferation of processes and frameworks. By the way, I do realize that it's not remaining, it's reimagining. Guys, stop hiring a dyslexic to read for you. Okay? This is your fault. This is not my fault. This is your fault. Okay? I've been seeing people in chat saying, reimagining, not remaining. My fault, okay? That's your bad. Read better. Just read better, dummy. The proliferation of processes and frameworks that have sprung up in the wake of the manifesto. I like how it's capital M manifesto, the manifesto, are topics close to his heart. It feels like we stepped back in time. he tells the register, as if the manifesto never existed and we're back to heavy process. Yeah, we've pretty much just created, like, the biggest problem about how Agile is done today is that there used to be this idea that we would be able to effectively plan, we could code, we could test and fix, and we could release, right? This is lovingly known as waterfall, right? And so this would take something along like 2 months. This would take like maybe a year. This would take like 2 months. And then this would take like another 2 months, right? So this was like a long thing. So this was like 1.5 years, right? So this was like a long process to get anything done, right? And Agile came along and said, hey, these are the ways we want to be able to do stuff. We want to be able to do like quick cycles and be able to adjust where we're going. So we want to not just be bogged down with only doing features for a long time, but we also want to make sure we're, able to release and do all this stuff and be able to like change our course and be able to better estimate times. So instead of just taking months to plan, we instead are able to actually, plan, then code, then test, and then release, and then go back and do it over and over again, and all that good stuff, right? So how that was received is that you just go like this. And instead of a year and a half, you just say 2 weeks. And instead of plan, you say planning poker. Instead of code, you say meetings. And when you say test, you say in production. And when you say release, you mean broken software / and shitification. And then you throw in like buzzwords like CI/CD, TDD, STD, like all the things, like all the things. I'm feeling very self-aware. The story points, all the D's, velocity, and of course, the amount that you can go in here and make happen here is called your velocity, right? So that's your relative change. Of course, what that means is that you're going to take what happens in here, and instead of being a 1 hour task, it becomes a 1 day task, because that increases your velocity, which increases your pay, which increases your perception of who you are within the company, right? There's definitely some fundamental flaws here. We are back with the giant diagram or giant processes. Well, because it gives comfort to those middle managers who really don't know what's going on as much as they might think they do. Yeah, I mean, that's just called management, dog. I mean, I think one of the fundamental problems, to be completely fair about management, and I think we should all recognize this, is that in the real world, there is literally, tens of millions of people hired in tech companies. 20 millions, maybe 30 million, right? There's a lot of people that work in tech companies, but people that are actually engineers, is going to be a much smaller number, right? It's going to be a much smaller version of whatever this is. And so there's all these people that just have no clue what coding really actually is. Like, they watch CSI, and the 2 people sharing a keyboard could very well be coding, right? It could very well be the person that, like, I could go 50-50 with my friend on a keyboard and program twice as fast, right? Or NCIS, whatever it's called. I don't watch. Okay, guys, I don't watch shitty TV. So I just know CSI as one of the names. Okay, that's it. I don't watch shitty, crappy hacker TV. I'm not gonna watch it. Okay, hacking for normies is not where I'm at. Anyways, so they have to put it into ways in which they can understand. How can you tell that a project is going further? Well, we need some sort of numeric value that I can look at one day and see it at 50, and then the next day see it at 55 and go, progress. Right? Like, that's all this really comes down to, is people who don't understand. This is why startups get so much shit done in the first 2 years, is because the people who actually make the company are very technical. They understand programming. Like, they really actually get it at a fundamental level. So when they think of features, they can actually think about, what is this going to cost? How is the system going to actually have to change? They have this deep familiarity with what actually is being changed on. And so they can understand why things take time and what things shouldn't take time. And then as that goes, you have to hire in people who can help. Now you start getting these VPs of engineering that just have, they're very smart technical people and they can understand things from high levels. They just have not coded in forever and they're coming into a project they've never touched, seen, or understand. And then they're like, oh, they can get it. So they start putting in the process. And all of a sudden, things that should take low amounts of time because the company is so focused, so technical, so good, starts taking longer and longer and longer. And sure, startups don't have, they have less tech debt. You know what? I actually don't believe that. Any startup that's like 8 months old gets to the point where every line of code they wrote was in super haste with zero planning and absolutely just a pile of horseshit. It's not that some of their code is tech debt. It's that all of it's a dumpster fire. Like it is nothing but pure grade A USDA organic free range tech debt, right? That's all it is. And we're all okay with that. I wrote version 1 in 2 weeks. Exactly. And now we've just bolted on version 1 ad infinitum. And so that's kind of my general theory. And so that's why I try not to like harp too hard on this idea that people do want numbers. And it's because people don't understand the system, right? They're trying to drive a car in which they don't know how to put their foot on the gas pedal. So they make up a gas pedal. They make up a brake. They make up all these reasons because they're like, I need a way to understand it. And so they do stupid things like programming as an assembly line because that's the only way to understand it. Management needs numbers. And so this is why Agile falls apart. Agile is amazing because every single startup does Agile. Every single startup iterates quick, pivots when they need to pivot, discusses features that only need to be done right away, creates process just for their small ecosystem. Like they literally do Agile in its purity, and then it falls apart completely because, once again, people who are not technical come in and destroy it all. The elephant in the room, and one of the reasons Kern is speaking to us, is a recent report. I believe I actually looked at this. Yeah, study finds 200. We actually did this. We actually looked at this. I didn't really like the research. I thought the research was pretty poor in this report because look at this. It's like they only did research on May 3rd through May 7th with 600 engineers, 250 from the UK and 350 from the US. First off, that's just not a lot of people, especially when you're like doing this type of research. It's not over a long period of time, so it's going to be all perception-based questions. How do you feel about the process? Like how you feel can change week to week. How you feel is not a good way to do actual statistics. And so then they take all of your feelings, and I think at some point somewhere there's like bar graphs and stuff. So, maybe it might be better to actually 286% plus or minus 200%. Yo, F yo couch. Exactly. And so, like, to me, a better measurement system would be to actually measure features, what individuals dev are actually saying, how long how complicated the feature is, and if it is actually going to completion, how many production bugs are there. It might even be better to say how much production bugs are there, how many new production features are there, like actually get real usage stats and do that like over the course of a couple years and see, like, is Agile really bad? What is going on? Big tech companies also have an elephant in the room that no one seems to discuss anywhere. They have less than 2 years average tenure. Bada bing. And yes, Google, Meta, Amazon all have this issue. Even with importing engineers from the most populous countries, if you blink, people disappear around you. And you know what? No matter how much you like to say it, tribal knowledge is king. It will always be king. I don't believe in this LLM future of documenting. I don't think it's ever going to happen. Maybe some of it can get cured for sure, but tribal knowledge exists, and it's extremely difficult to make it go away. For those that don't understand what tribal knowledge means, it just simply means I know how a service works, and it is not documented in the way in which I understand, like in its entirety. Like I actually get it. I worked on this project, and sure, you can see how it's deployed, you can see all this stuff, but it's not, there's things about it that will never be documented. There's gotchas that may not be there. Maybe there's things that could go wrong that only I would know how to fix, right? It's not that I don't have, it's not that I'm not trying to say things. It's that if it breaks, I'm the only person that probably knows some of the internals. It's not gatekeeping. It's called building something meaningful, right? If you if you have not maintained and built a large piece of software with no matter how amazing the documentation is, someone's going to break something, something's not going to work, and only you, the person who understands the system, will be able to understand it immediately versus the person that probably could debug their way there, but you just have the tribal knowledge, right? You just simply have the tribal knowledge. The big elephant exists because big tech doesn't want to keep their employees for long. Yeah, but if you look at startups have the same tenure, if not worse, right? And the road to advancement is often to find a new workplace instead of internal promotions. Yes, so that actually is a wild thing about our industry, which is that to get promoted, for you to be paid what, like, you should be being paid somewhere else, requires you to go somewhere else. I do think that that maybe it's, and I doubt that it's direct management's fault, but we should have more direct management being able to push and hire people faster, or push and promote people / give them more money faster. Because the reality is that hiring somebody new is a huge monetary cost. Whatever it costs to pay the person another $20,000, $50,000, another $100,000 is less than losing the person. It always will be. Because it requires multiple team members to take time off. You lose tribal knowledge, you lose speed, people start getting burnt out. Like, it causes a whole distributed problem across the board. Training time, getting out, like, there's just, it's crazy. Can you please tell my company this? To me, this is one of the biggest failures, and even Netflix struggled at doing this correctly. And they did a pretty good job, and they even stated they're going to try to do a good job. But still, I feel like it is a very, very, very difficult thing that, for whatever reason, we try to save $50,000 by losing $200,000, right? Yeah. I mean, there's also that, right? I mean, this will always exist. I hate Salad Boy. I hate Salad Boy. Dude, whoever that boy salad is, I don't like him either. But I mean, sometimes you get burnt out from a place and you just need to change and fix it, right? Like, yo, I worked at Netflix for 10 and a half years. I know what it feels like to kind of get burnt out at a place. I know what it's, like, I definitely I went through my times at Netflix where I was just like, fuck this, right? We've all been there. Netflix, by the way, shut up, right? All right, Kern does not mince words. I thought the research was trash. Yeah, I mean, I generally actually agree with this. It doesn't even remotely, shall I say, mirror what I would consider Agile. Well, I just simply would say that it was just poor research as an archetype of how you would do research. All right, he gives examples. Silly things like the project requirements weren't clear before the software development process began. That's such an old trope, I don't get that. I don't really get, I mean, that is a real thing. Like, most project requirements aren't clear before you start. Yeah, it was trash, but I believe it anyways. Absolutely. See, that's one of my problems, is that I actually believe it because I think management fundamentally sucks and they will destroy anything that is successful, right? Hey, Zero Sec, appreciate the 48. I assume you're talking about CloudStrike? Talking about CloudStrike? Hey. Appreciate that. Hey, can we get a quick shout out as I do it? Oh my goodness. Dude, what is with my typing today? It's like my brain forgot how to type. There you go. Shout out. All right. Suggestion that the manifesto says, yeah, forego clear requirements. Why would you want to do that? That's just silly. I think there's a lot to unpack here that I don't think is being fairly said. Let's say that you want to get together and you want to build a video service like YouTube. So you need to have a home in which you can see a list of shows. You need to be able to store videos somewhere. You need to be able to retrieve those videos and play them in the browser, right? Something simple. Are the requirements clear? Well, it really depends on who you ask. You ask somebody that just takes things and just builds what they think and just goes, clear as day, right? Yeah, we're building a video service. I will work on the home row. You guys work on this. Somebody who's not used to that kind of stuff, that's not in the startup the mentality. Okay, how many videos on the home row? What's the color scheme? Do you have designs? You can see why this can be very different. Some people hate the lack of details. Some people love the freedom. And so, when is requirements clear enough? I'm not saying it's great. I'm just saying there's definitely the idea that requirements aren't clear enough will be universally true for every project ever, except for probably NASA projects, in which they plan out everything to an exact detail. Like it won't ever happen. Someone's always going to say, not good enough. I think the issue with a lot of these companies is that they pay really well and have nearly infinite money streams. That brings a special kind of parasite in the middle management that drives perception of impact through metric manipulation over actual quality work. Yes. And lithium, you would know, you would actually know these things. They shun the hard stuff that is deep digging and then go for some low-hanging fruit that looks good. Yeah. Facts on facts on facts. All right. Kern is blunt about why some individuals gravitate toward processes that might seem at odds with what the manifesto is all about. He asks, why are we back with these giant diagrams or giant processes? Well, because it gives comfort to those middle managers who really don't know what's going on as much as they might think they do. Kern gives an example. I can latch onto this. I can see roles, and it's nice. You know, the diagram looks great. It's almost like a waterfall. It gives me that false sense of security. And I'll just pretend to ignore reality. There's a certain purity to the original Agile Manifesto that has been eroded over the years as process frameworks and tools have been deployed around the concept. Kern compares the situation to a comedy sketch in which the patient in the operating theater is lost among all the exciting, shiny machinery. I mean, it's the problem about all ideas, right? It's just an idea. And when ideas meet realities, they don't survive. If plans don't survive first contact, if everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, an idea sounds great until it sounds great on paper and is horrible in practice. Right? He admits to dropping out of the Agile scene around a decade ago when getting certified in one framework or another was all the rage. I hated work. We scrummed so hard. When ideas meet middle management, let's go. Mike Tyson mentioned, absolutely. Mike Tyson is a boss. So I just kind of extricate myself. Or extract myself, sorry, practically same word. So I just kind of extract myself. I stopped going to the conferences and all that crap because it was just BS in my opinion. Okay, I actually like this. This article is really, really good. You know what, Kern, I thought it was going to be kind of an article where you talk about how great it is, but this is good. I think he pretty much agrees with every software engineer. He is back now. I'm kind of saying, all right, I'm going to give it one more shot to try to get people to understand. Since 2003, Kern and others have been, in his words, reimagining Agile, remaining Agile. The goal is to track the down exemplars, places where Agile is flourishing, and shine a light on those people so they can see what good looks like. Oh no. They might run into a no true Scotsman problem right here. I can almost feel it radiating off the board. And from research point of view, my colleagues and I specifically are interviewing such exemplars to try to figure out what did they do to feather the nest. Because it is not doing Kanban or Scrum. There are some misconceptions about the differences between doing some Agile framework and being Agile. You know what really bothers me multiple times? Is that there's no ending quotation, so I don't know where the quotation ends at. All that said, it is hard to escape the feeling that well-meaning frameworks and the best practices have partially obscured the Agile Manifesto spirit over the years. There's an entire generation of engineers who have grown up with Agile who won't remember some of the heavyweight processes popular in the previous generation that gave rise to the manifesto. Yeah, there's this current movement of total absolution of all ideas that even look like classes right now in programming. And structs with methods are just fine. You know, like multi-level inheritance is just like the devil. It never goes well. But people take this idea of the moment you get something that is bad, you just throw away all of it. And I do totally agree that the manifesto's original intent was simply to get away from these heavy processes and try to say, let's reduce process. Let's value people over processes. And then what do? Well, when the boots hit the ground, they're like, well, we need a process for that. Let's get a process for removing processes. And then you end up with retrospecs and planning poker and all that. Let's see. So I feel I owe it to the next generation to at least make a crack at helping them see. Kern is focusing, I would assume that he just said this in the third person, which makes no sense. Kern is focusing on exemplars to provide what he calls beacons of hope, or a beacon of hope, and then describe in 1 or 2 pages that this is what it's supposed to be like. Here's things that I should be looking for, and here's how it was going on here. And being able to find things that might look like a match for where I'm working and to try them out. I think this all sounds great and all, but I think one of the problems is that you're going to find that true Agile in its truest sense will be performed at very few big companies. I think that it just becomes increasingly more difficult as the company scales. I think there's some inversely proportional thing. I'm not sure what that looks like. I don't know if it is linear. I don't know if it's some sort of like quick drop off and then goes like this, right? But it's not going to be. It's just very difficult to maintain that. And even you as engineers, how many engineers in here think other engineers are incapable at their job? Type 1 in the chat if you think other engineers at your job are incapable. Okay, so let's follow this up. Are there teams that you think are incapable? Type 69 in the chat if you think there's teams that you think are incapable. Well, folks, you have the answer right here. Guess what? Would you like to give that incapable team a little bit more process and rigor to what they're doing? By the way, if you didn't type 69, you're on that team. Do you want them just releasing for you? Oh, okay, so they can release on a Friday. Oh, okay. They can release on a Friday. Okay, good. Yeah, we don't want to give them process, right? We don't want to give them process. We want them to be free, just like we're free. You know, just because they're incapable engineers and you don't trust them at all, we need to let them run free. They will release on a Friday, but don't worry. They'll clean it up and they'll do the best ever. By the way, CrowdStrike today released on a Thursday evening and has destroyed the actual internet for a lot of people. I'm going to tell you one last uncomfortable truth. You know all the people that typed in 69 and said that they think the other teams are incapable? That other team was typing 69 too. It just hurts a little bit. You know what I mean? Humanity mentioned. Let's go. Boom, roasted. Don't hurt me like that. I'm just letting you know. Anyways, again, I'm totally on the team of accept the risk of low process, but I also don't have a multi-billion-dollar company. If I was at the helm of a multi-billion-dollar company, would I still have the same views? If I was a VP at a multi-billion-dollar company in which my job was on the line for the performance of said organization, would I do that? It's fair. It's hard, right? Like I think we all have a big game we talk because we aren't in the positions, right? You know all those people that you hear on the internet that talk tough to somebody? Man, I'm going to beat your ass if I ever see you. And then in person, they're just like, ooh, gosh, I got to go home. I'm sick of touching grass, right? Like everyone's a keyboard warrior until they get punched in the face. Mike Tyson quote, altered. Primogen quote now. Again.